We're here now.
Welcome back to our podcast, Redeemed. Thanks for joining us. We are marching along with the Israelites.
We're marching.
And we are going to jump a couple of books to Joshua. And
I was thinking Friends.
the first thing we have to understand is
Friends.
that Moses... Are we done?
You haven't seen Friends.
Sorry. He doesn't like Josh? No, I don't.
Is that Moses is going to be passing away. And when that happens, he installs Joshua as the next leader, which, if you remember the name Joshua, son of Nun, he was the guy that went in.
One of the two.
Yep.
Yeah.
He and Caleb, and he was like, yep, we can take him. Let's do it.
Yep.
All right. So it made sense that Moses chose him as, or I don't think Moses did. God did.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But there's a reason God chose him as the replacement. Moses got to see the promised land, didn't get to go into the promised land because he made a mistake and didn't do what the Lord told him to do exactly. It's cost him the ability to go in. But he did get to see it. God was leading to him and let him see it. Took him high up on a mountain and said, up, there it is. Then Joshua takes over. Now, it's kind of interesting because you kind of have a shift here. With Moses, you had the wanderings, and he was just trying to keep the people focused. Did some conquering, but not like Joshua was going to do.
Yeah.
If you look at the book of Joshua, all he does is conquer.
Yep.
Conquer.
Isn't that the thing?
Conquer. Yep.
Yeah.
Was that
The
what
theme
it
of the
was?
book where he's stomping on the town, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Joshua conquered.
Now I remember it.
Yeah.
Joshua conquers. That was it.
Yeah.
And it really is true. That's what Joshua did. He was, Moses kind of trying to figure a better way to phrase what his leadership was. But I feel like it was more like chasing cats.
Moses?
Yeah.
It wasn't chasing the cats. He was herding the cats.
Okay, herding cats. There
It
you go.
his was all about getting them
To the promise.
to the promised land. Because let us not forget, they were in slavery. And Pharaoh did not want to give that up.
Yep.
So that was Moses' big deal. And then the Israelites didn't make it easy to get to the promised land either. Mm-hmm. It was like traveling with 3-year-olds. It's like, guys, I left you alone for 10 minutes.
Yeah. No, it was like 3 months, but yeah.
Well, listen, you would hope with a bunch of grown people and Aaron allegedly in charge.
He was in charge.
He was in charge. That's fair. It's a good point. He was not, holding the line.
No.
But, yeah. So, anyways, all that to say, Moses had a huge role, obviously. Mm-hmm. But not the conqueror.
He was not the conqueror.
And we have to understand, too, that the Lord told them to basically wipe out all the other nations that were in the promised land. In
Don't
Canaan.
coexist.
Yep. He wanted. He was using the Israelites as judgment on those nations because they were all sinful nations, and he was wiping them out.
Yep.
And then the Israelites were supposed to take over. I think that's important to just kind of lay the groundwork there for you to understand. They weren't just marching in like, no, this is what the Lord wanted. He was using them as his weapon.
Yep.
So we have Joshua who's in charge. There's a lot of fun stuff that happens with Joshua. And some of those stories will just stick with you. I like Joshua because he was one of those guys that relies very heavily on the Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, he really does follow Moses' example. Mm-hmm. He was a very good replacement, and he was able to keep the people in line enough to accomplish most of the goal. Yeah. Because what happens is it's been a while since I've read the ending of Joshua, but he's not quite able to take over everything.
It takes time,
and that is going to cause a problem for the Israelites because they don't continue in his footsteps. And so in the end,
noticing a theme here.
Mm-hmm, they didn't finish it completely. They settled.
Yeah.
And then those people that they left began to infiltrate their nation. Mm-hmm. And so then their pagan gods, their pagan worship all infiltrated. And then you have the start of the Judges cycle.
Yep.
Literally just pushing the reset button.
Yep. Yep. And as you read through this, it's really amazing how fast the people forget.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They were just, it wasn't And whether it was the parents that weren't teaching their kids
Right.
about what they saw and heard, or the grandparents not teaching, you know what I'm saying,
Yep.
the grandchildren.
Right.
I don't know which it is, but somewhere along the way, it gets lost.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, you have this generation of people who do not understand basically who God is. It's like he brought them out of Egypt, and
Yeah.
yet they forget.
Yep.
That being said, we're going to cover some pretty amazing things here in between.
Yeah.
I always enjoy this book because
My
I feel
favorite
like
book.
there's a lot of action in it. A lot of action.
It's
Yeah.
my fave.
You got Rahab and the spies. You've got the Battle of Jericho. You've got the destruction of the city called Ai, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
And there's just some good stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
God does some things in some very interesting ways.
Well, yeah.
You know, which is
There's
not
a
unlike
theme.
God. I mean, it's just not unlike God. I mean, we just got done
Exactly.
talking about Balaam and a donkey talking.
Yeah.
Yep.
But still, I mean, he gives Joshua some commands, and you know, you got to just take the credit to Joshua here that he didn't argue with God,
No, he said okay.
and he just did it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, he had been walking with Moses and probably
Yeah.
seen some.
Yeah. He's probably like, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean, he's seen the
Yeah.
ground open up and eat people. You know, it's like, yeah, sure, God, whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know.
Uh-huh.
Who am I to argue?
Yeah. You got it. You the guy. You the man.
And then you're going to get to hear those famous, you know, those famous verses where Joshua says, you know, for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And, you know, I've seen that in many of Christians' house up against the wall. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
It's a good reminder.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a good one to have up, I would say.
And so he's a phenomenal leader. I really like reading about him. And so I hope that you will enjoy, as we begin to kind of break it down and look at some of the stuff that he did, that you will enjoy it as well. He was a strong leader.
Yeah.
He was very strong and he was very courageous. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is kind of what it says here in the first chapter here. Verse 7 in the first chapter, it says, be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go.
He took that to heart.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And because of it, the Lord blessed him.
Yeah.
So
He was very successful.
I just kind of wanted to give us just kind of a quick intro into where we're going to be going for the next couple of podcasts. I just didn't want you to think, oh, we just jumped from there to here.
And here we are.
Yeah, I mean, there's some time that took place in between. Moses finished up what he was supposed to do. The Lord called him home, and now Joshua's the one that's got to take it from there. And so we will we'll start looking at what Joshua did.
Yeah.
All right.
Next man up.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week, and we will see you next time.